Dad, and it stars Jack Lemmon in potentially one of his most interesting roles as an old retired man who allows his wife to manage every single detail of his life, right down to the toothpaste on the toothbrush in the morning. When the wife goes to the hospital with a heart attack, however, Dad can hardly survive on his own, and so his investor's son, played by Ted Danson, comes home to teach him how to cope.
Color? White, color, color, white, color, color.
What about this one?
That one? That is white. Okay, it's colored. Yeah, it's got to be one of those.
Dad likes this responsibility and takes out a new lease on life. He even goes out to get the first driver's license he's had in years.
Okay, Dad, if you hit a parked vehicle and cannot find the owner, you must A, leave a note on or in the car, B, wait for the owner to return, or C, leave a message at the nearest house.
Why are you doing this? I've already passed the written test.
I know, but you can't be too careful. One of these very situations may appear during the driving portion of your test, and I want you to be ready.
I hit a car in the driving test. It isn't going to matter if I leave a note on or in the car or not.
Olympia Dukakis plays the wife, and she resents the fact that Lemmon has grown more independent.
I'm not going to drive with him. He drove too fast before. I hate to think what it'd be like now.
Then tragedy strikes as the doctors discover that Dad has cancer. After major surgery, Danson doesn't think Lemmon is getting the care he needs, so he takes drastic action.
But medically speaking, there's nothing more we can do for him. And we simply cannot hold hospital beds for patients who cannot profit from medical care.
How would we know? He's never gotten any medical care.
You have to understand, Mr. Tremont, while his condition is stable, basically he's custodial.
What exactly does that mean?
I'll tell you what that means, Annie. That means they don't give a if he lives or dies. He's not custodial. Neither. What kind of word is that to describe a person?
Now, I understand. You'll just come to my office down.
If you want my father out of here, well, let me tell you something. I want him out of here more than you do.
And right after that scene, Danson literally picks up his father out of the hospital bed, carries him out of the hospital and into a car and takes him home. And that's supposed to be a scene that really tears you up emotionally in this movie, but all it did to me was make me mad. Now, I've been through major surgery with aging relatives, and I know the one thing you do not do is pick them up and carry them out of the hospital after they've had their abdomen cut open. It could kill them. So that scene in the movie is simply grandstanding, cheap grandstanding, and a lot of this movie is the same way. I like the earlier scenes where Lemmon is truly helpless and Danson is helping him learn to live again, but some of the later scenes in the movie were shameless, like the one where Lemmon buys all the used clothing down at the beach and stages a costume party in the living room. That scene is a clear-cut case of filmmaking desperation. They didn't have the guts to really make a movie about old and dying parents, and so they tricked it up with cornball cliches out of sitcoms. Dad starts out well, but then it sells out.
I don't know that I even like the way it started out as all that much. And one of the things that bothered me about the way it starts out is the soundtrack, with lots of weepy piano music by James Horner, the composer, laid over the very first shots of Jack Lemmon in bed. And one of the things that I thought, because he's playing a 78-year-old man near death even at that point. I mean, he's a walking dead, which is one of the points of the film. And I thought, you know, old age doesn't have a soundtrack except quiet and loneliness. And why didn't they have the guts to make the film without that sound? I don't feel, when I watch this picture, I resent soundtracks like that. I think, you know, if they can't get me to be sympathetic to a guy who's alone in bed and near death, then no piano is going to make me feel it.
Well, the whole thing in this movie is their inability to really face death and dying. And I mean, it comes right down to Jack Lemmon's performance, which in the first scenes is pretty convincing, and then little by little his energy comes back until at the end he's practically breakdancing on the beach. I mean, it is ludicrous what he goes through during that period when he's going to have his new lease on life. It is straight out of television sitcom. It is straight out of going for cheap gags and cheap emotional payoffs as a way of avoiding the very issues that the movie is allegedly supposed to be about.
The issues are fascinating. I'll tell you another problem I had. I didn't for a second believe that Ted Danson was Jack Lemmon's son. I mean, I saw them as two actors standing side by side.
One of the things that they don't seem to know about Danson in Hollywood is that he's a cold actor, and they keep putting him in these warm roles, and he never seems to really, he should really be the guy who doesn't have any feelings, which he is at the beginning of this movie, but he doesn't convince me when he comes over at the end into his heart warming up. I don't believe that.
Well, the part that I believed, and the only part that I liked of the picture, was Danson's relation to his own son, which is a very strained kind of relationship. And when they talk, there's a scene scene that I'm talking about 3 minutes out of a 2-hour picture that I liked, and the 3 minutes that I liked was a discussion between the two of them.
And even then, they only brought the son in order to have symmetry. Here's a guy, he's got a father, and he's got a son. The son was unnecessary.
But that happens. I mean, in life, we all are.
It does happen sometimes.
2 thumbs down for Dad with its highly melodramatic rendition of the trauma of old age.